What if you could tailor your diet to protect your brain as you age, all based on your unique genetic code? Well, that's the whole idea behind precision nutrition and its role in cognitive health. In this explainer, we're going to get into the science of how our bodies, right down to our DNA, change the way food affects our brains. We'll see why a one size fits all diet for brain health often misses the mark, and how a personalized approach could be a key tool for managing cognitive decline. So, to get the complete picture, we're going to walk through six key areas. We'll kick things off with what happens in the brain when it ages, and then we'll explore the surprising link between your gut and your brain. From there, we'll zoom in on a specific genetic risk factor, check out some nutritional strategies to counter it, and see how this all plays out in a case study. And finally, we'll sort out the facts from the fiction when it comes to brain healthy diets. All right, let's start at the beginning. What is happening to our brains over time? Before we can talk about slowing down decline, we first have to understand the baseline for what normal and abnormal brain aging even looks like. It's perfectly normal for our brains to shrink a little as we get older. We typically lose about 0.5% to 1% of its volume every year. But sometimes this process speeds up. This accelerated decline is what we call pathological aging, and it has specific biological red flags that scientists can spot. So, what are these red flags? On a microscopic level, two main things are going wrong, creating a kind of communication breakdown in the brain. First, you have these sticky proteins called amyloid beta that start clumping together outside of brain cells, forming what are known as plaques. This is like static on a phone line. Then, at the same time, another protein called tau, which is supposed to stabilize the internal structure of brain cells, gets all tangled up inside them. This is like the phone lines themselves getting twisted and completely broken. These plaques and tangles, they are the classic signs of Alzheimer's disease. Now, here's something that might surprise you. What's going on in your brain can be heavily influenced by something that seems pretty far away, your gut. This connection is called the microbiota gut-brain axis, and it's a two-way street that affects everything from our mood to our cognitive health. So, how does this all work? Picture a superhighway of information running between your brain and your gut. Messages are flying back and forth using nerve signals, hormones, and even immune cells. This constant chatter means the health of your gut microbiome, all those trillions of bacteria in your digestive system, can directly affect how your brain functions. When one community of microbes in your gut gets out of whack, a condition called gut dysbiosis, it can spell trouble. Think of your gut as a garden. When the weeds start taking over, the whole system suffers. This imbalance can weaken the lining of your intestines, which then lets inflammatory substances leak into your bloodstream. And from there, they can travel right up to the brain, stirring up inflammation that contributes to diseases like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and ALS. But there's a good side to this story. When we eat fiber, the good bacteria in our gut digest it and produce these beneficial compounds called short chain fatty acids. They're like little messengers that can travel all the way from the gut to the brain. Once they get there, they can help dial down inflammation and support overall brain health. Okay, so we've got inflammation and the gut-brain connection as two major players. But there's another crucial piece of this puzzle, our genetics. One gene in particular, called APOE, has a huge role. And the specific variant of this gene, known as the APOE4 allele, is the single biggest genetic risk factor for developing late-onset Alzheimer's. We all have the APOE gene, but it comes in a few different versions. The E4 version, or allele, is the one we're focused on here. Now, carrying this variant doesn't mean you'll definitely get Alzheimer's, but it does significantly raise your risk. And why is that? Well, it sets off a chain reaction of problems, especially with how the brain gets its energy, leaving it much more vulnerable to damage over time. Let's break down what that means for the brain's fuel supply. Your brain is an energy hog, and its favorite food is glucose, which is sugar. On the left, you see a healthy brain, where glucose passes easily from the blood into the brain. But for someone with the APOE4 gene, which you see on the right, that whole delivery system is compromised. The gatekeeper, the blood-brain barrier, becomes less efficient, so less glucose gets in. This starves the brain of its main fuel, forcing it to look for other energy sources like ketones. Okay, so we have a brain that's inflamed and struggling for energy. This is exactly where precision nutrition comes into the picture. The goal is to use food strategically to fight back against these specific problems. So, what are the main strategies? It boils down to three core approaches. First, we need to cool down inflammation. Diets like the Mediterranean and Mind diet are filled with plant compounds and fiber that help calm inflammation in the body and brain. Second, some compounds, like those in turmeric and white grapes, show promise in animal studies for interfering with those sticky amyloid plaques. And third, And this is so important for APOE4 carriers. We can give the brain a different kind of fuel. This is where ketogenic diets come into play, offering up ketones as an energy source that doesn't need that broken glucose transport system. Theory is one thing, but let's see what this looks like in practice. We're going to walk through a case study of someone with the APOE4 gene to see how these nutritional ideas can be put into action. So let's imagine a 65-year-old who knows they carry the APOE4 gene. They've started to notice some memory issues, what doctors would call subjective cognitive concerns. A brain scan then confirms what we'd expect. Their brain isn't using glucose for energy very well. On a typical diet that's high in carbs, their brain is essentially running on empty. It's trying to use glucose, but the fuel line is clogged. The result? An energy crisis. But look what happens when they switch to a ketogenic diet. The body starts making ketones, an alternative fuel. These ketones can get into the brain with no problem and provide the energy it's been starving for, helping to restore balance and function. Now, this all sounds really promising, but it's so important to be realistic and understand the nuances here. In this final section, let's go ahead and tackle some common myths and pitfalls when it comes to diet and brain health. One of the biggest misconceptions is the idea of a magic bullet, that taking a single superfood supplement can prevent Alzheimer's. You'll see headlines about compounds like curcumin from turmeric or resveratrol from grapes. And while they look interesting in the lab, the evidence in large-scale human trials just isn't there yet. Focusing on one single nutrient misses the whole point of how dietary patterns work together. And that brings us to the most important pitfall to avoid: the one-size-fits-all approach. Giving everyone the exact same advice for brain health simply doesn't work. The best strategy is a precise one, tailored to your individual biology. As we've seen, the ideal diet for someone with the APOE4 gene is fundamentally different because it has to solve a very specific energy problem that other people might not have. So let's quickly recap the key takeaways. We've seen that abnormal brain aging involves plaques and tangles. We've learned the APOE4 gene can create an energy crisis in the brain by blocking its main fuel. We've connected gut health to brain inflammation, and most importantly, we see how precision nutrition offers a way to fight back by targeting these specific issues based on a person's individual profile. As we wrap up, here are a few key questions to think about. First, can you explain how the ApoE4's allele messes with the brain's energy supply? Second, what is the job of those short-chain fatty acids from our gut microbiome when it comes to protecting the brain? And last one, what makes a ketogenic diet a precision tool specifically for a person with the ApoE4 gene? These are the types of questions at the forefront of neuroscience and nutrition. If you found this explanation helpful and want more content that breaks down complex science, please subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. Thanks for watching.